Rajacharya Astotara Sata Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktitirtha Swami Niti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupadaya Astritakmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhaktitirtha Namine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pastityare Satarine. So, see. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. So good morning, Hare Krishna devotees. This morning we continue with Canto 5, Chapter 16. And I think, yes, and we're doing verses 11 to 2021, because many of them do not have purports. So I'm going to start with 11. I'll read the Sanskrit of 11 and then the translation. And I'll just read the translations of the subsequent verses and then do the Sanskrit and translation of verse 2021, which has the purport, and we can hear more from what Srila Prabhupada shares. So, verse 11. Mandaro Meru Mandara Suparvasha Kumhuda iti ayuta yojana vistaro naha meros chatur disham avastamba giraya upaklapta. Translation. On the four sides of the great mountain known as Sumeru are four mountains, Mandara, Meru Mandara, Suparshva, and Kumuda, which are like its belts. The length and height of these mountains are calculated to be 10,000 yojanas, which is 80,000 miles. Text 12 translation. Standing like flagstaffs on the summits of these four mountains are a mango tree, a rose apple tree, a kadamba tree, and a banyan tree. Those trees are calculated to have a width of 100 yojanas, 800 miles, and a height of 1,100 yojanas, 8,800 miles. Their branches also spread to a radius of 1,100 yojanas, which is the 8,800 miles. Text 13:14, translation. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Bharata dynasty, between these four mountains are four huge lakes. The water of the first tastes just like milk, the water of the second like honey, and that of the third like sugarcane juice. The fourth lake is filled with pure water. The celestial beings, such as the Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, who are also known as demigods, enjoy the facilities of those four lakes. Consequently, they have the natural perfections of mystic yoga, such as the power to become smaller than the smallest or greater than the greatest. There are also four celestial gardens named Nandana, Chaitrakta, Vaibrajaka, and Sarvatobhadra. Text 15, translation. The best of the demigods, along with their wives, who are like ornaments of heavenly beauty, meet together and enjoy within those gardens, while their glories are sung by lesser demigods known as Gandharvas. Text 16, translation. On the slopes of Mandara mountain is a mango tree named Devachyuta. It is 1,100 yojanas high. Mangoes as big as mountain peaks and as sweet as nectar fall from the top of this tree for the enjoyment of the denizens of heaven. There's a short purport here in which Srila Prabhupada says, in the Vayu Purana, there is also a reference to this tree by great learned sages. Aratninam satani astav ekashasti adhikani cha vala pramanam akyatam vishbis tattvadarsibihi. Text 17, translation. When all those solid fruits fall from such a height, they break, and the sweet, fragrant juice within them flows out and becomes increasingly more fragrant as it mixes with other scents. That juice cascades from the mountain in waterfalls and becomes a river called Arunoda, which flows pleasantly through the eastern side of Ilavrita. Text 18, translation. The pious wives of the Yakshas act as personal maidservants to assist Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva. Because they drink the water of the river Arunoda, their bodies become fragrant, and as the air carries away that fragrance, it perfumes the entire atmosphere for 80 miles around. Text 19, translation. Similarly, the fruits of the jambu tree, which are full of pulp and have very small seeds, fall from a great height and break to pieces. Those fruits are the size of elephants, and the juice gliding from them becomes a river named Jambu Nadi. This river falls a distance of 10,000 yojanas from the summit of Meru Mandara to the southern side of Ilavrita and floods the entire land of Ilavrita with juice. Another short purport. We can only imagine how much juice there might be in a fruit that is the size of an elephant but has a very tiny seed. Naturally, the juice from the broken jambu fruits forms waterfalls and floods the entire land of Ilavrita. That juice produces an immense quality of gold, as will be explained in the next verses. So we come to the verse that we can discuss today, which is 2021. Sanskrit. Tavadubayo rapi rodasor yamritika tarasenanu vidyamana Varka samyoga vipakena sadamara lokavaranam jambunadam nama suvarnam bhavati yadhuha bhava vibhutadaya saha yuvatibir mukuta kattaka kati sutradi abharana rupena kalu dharyanti. Synonyms. Tavat, entirely. Ubayo api, of both. Rodaso, of the banks. Ya, which. Mritika, the mud. Tatrasena, with the juice of the jambu fruits that flows in the river. Anuvidyamana, being saturated. Vayu arka samyoga vipakena, because of a chemical reaction with the air and sunshine. Sada, always. Amaraloka abharanam, which is used for the ornaments of the demigods, the denizens of the heavenly planets. Jambu nadam nama, named Jambu nada. Suvarnam, gold. Bhavati, becomes. Yat, which. Uhavava, indeed. Vibhuda adaya, the great demigods. Saha, with. Vivattibihi, their everlastingly youthful wives. Mukuta, crowns. Kataka, bangles. Katisutra, belts. Adi, and so on. Abharana, of all kinds of ornaments. Rupena, in the form. Kalu, indeed. Dharyanti, they possess. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The mud on both banks of the river Jambu Nadi being moistened by the flowing juice and then dried by the air and the sunshine, produces huge quantities of gold called jambu nada. The denizens of heaven use this gold for various kinds of ornaments. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the heavenly planets and their youthful wives are fully decorated with golden helmets, bangles, and belts, and thus they enjoy life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the rivers on some planets produce gold on their banks. The poor inhabitants of this earth, because of their incomplete knowledge, are captivated by a so-called Bhagavan who can produce a small quantity of gold. However, it is understood that in a higher planetary system in this material world, the mud on the banks of the Jambu Nadi mixes with jambu juice, reacts with the sunshine in the air, and automatically produces huge quantities of gold. Thus, the men and women are decorated there by various ornaments, and they look very nice. Unfortunately, on Earth, there is such a scarcity of gold that the governments of the world try to keep it in reserve and issue paper currency. Because that currency is not backed up by gold, the paper they distribute as money is worthless. But nevertheless, the people on Earth are very proud of material advancement. In modern times, girls and ladies have ornaments made of plastic instead of gold, and plastic utensils are used instead of golden ones. Yet people are very proud of their material wealth. Therefore, the people of this age are described as Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Hi Upadrutaha, Bhagavatam 1:110. In other words, they are extremely bad and slow to understand the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They have been described as Sumanda Mataya because their conceptions are so crippled that they accept a bluffer who produces a little gold to be God. Because they have no gold in their possession, they are actually poverty-stricken, and therefore they are considered unfortunate. Sometimes, these unfortunate people want to be promoted to the heavenly planets to achieve fortunate positions, as described in this verse. But pure devotees of the Lord are not at all interested in such opulence. Indeed, devotees sometimes compare the color of gold to that of bright golden stool. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed devotees not to be allured by golden ornaments and beautifully decorated women. Amen. Nadanam najanam nasundarim. A devotee should not be allured by gold, beautiful people, or the prestige of having many followers. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore confidentially prayed, Mama Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavattad Bhakti Rahai Dwai. My Lord, please bless me with your devotional service. I do not want anything else. A devotee may pray to be delivered from this material world. That is his only aspiration. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitama vishame bhavambudao kripaya tava pada pankaja stitaduli sadarsham vichintaya. The humble devotee simply prays to the Lord, kindly pick me up from the material world, which is full of varieties of material opulences, and keep me under the shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Narottama Das Thakur prays, Aha Prabhunanda Sutta Vrishabhanu Sutta Yuta Karuna Kara Ebara Narottama Das Sakaya Na Teliha Rangapaya Toma Vine Keache Amara. O my Lord, O son of Nanda Maharaj, now you are standing before me with your consort, the daughter of Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radharani. Kindly accept me as the dust of your lotus feet. Please do not kick me away, for I have no other shelter. Similarly, Prabodhananda Saraswati indicates that the position of the demigods who are decorated with golden helmets and other ornaments is no better than a phantasmagoria. Tridasapur Akasha Pushpayate. A devotee is never allured by such opulences. He simply aspires to become the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yana Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, thank you, devotees, for sticking it through those many, many verses. But they so beautifully describe what is happening, what is appearing in Ilavrita, and the amazing and astonishing size of fruit and how they give rise to rivers, and how the juices, there's a reaction with the air and the sun that actually result in gold. So, there's such a abundance of gold. And then Srila Prabhupada, as we heard in the purport, contrasts that with paper currency, because it's a shortage and it's held in reserve. Then what do governments do? They just print paper. Prabhupada also explains how instead of gold, now we wear plastic. And so all of these comparisons are made and these beautiful descriptions are given. But the essence of the message is that no matter what opulence there is, a devotee is never allured by this. They're never allured by beautiful people, by gold, or by prestige. And so then what would be the aspiration of the devotee? And that is given in the last few lines of the purport, where Prabhupada says that the devotee is simply aspiring to become the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. So what does it mean? Like, where and how where do we hear this, and how do we become the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord if we cannot, or we choose not to aspire for all this wealth? And the contrast that we understand in this particular verse that can be extracted is, if the devotee is not pursuing that type of wealth, then what wealth is he pursuing? And there's this, there are many quotes that actually always express how the greatest wealth of a devotee is devotional service. So when he wants to become the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, he is wanting devotional service, because the devotee understands that that is the greatest wealth. And we see here in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'll just read what it says in Madhya 21:25. Devotional service or sense activity for the satisfaction of the Lord is called abhideya, because it can develop one's original love of Godhead, which is the goal of life. This goal is the living entity's topmost interest and greatest wealth. Thus, one attains a platform of transcendental loving service unto the Lord. And so nicely explained in this purport how, as conditioned souls, we're constantly bewildered by external material energy. And then, we just want to chase sense gratification. And therefore, our original Krishna consciousness is covered. But Prabhupada in this purport says the Supreme Father of love of all living entities, Krishna, wants his children to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, he personally comes to deliver Vedic literature like the Bhagavad Gita. And then further to that, we have Shastra, and then Krishna engages his confidential servants, then who serve as our spiritual masters, and they enlighten us conditioned living entities. And then on top of that, the Lord is present in everyone's heart, in all of our hearts. And so he's giving us conscience whereby we can accept the Vedas and the spiritual master. It's such an amazing process, and so much science and depth to it. And so in this way, we start to understand our constitutional position, which is, part and parcel of Krishna and ultimate servant of Krishna. And so, in this relationship and understanding, we can attain the platform of loving service to the Lord. And it's in our best interest, Prabhupada explains in this purport, to understand the Supreme Lord. But what happens, we just get forgetful. And but our process is designed to keep that understanding ever fresh in our hearts and consciousness, that what we really want is ultimately connection with Krishna and service to Krishna. So, yeah, Prabhupada concludes this little explanation where he says, thus one engages in devotional service called avideya, and when the living entity actually develops love of Godhead, through engagement, through the guidance of the spiritual master, through the super soul, accepting Shastra and the spiritual master, then one actually reaches the ultimate goal, prayojana. So in other words, one who becomes fully Krishna conscious has attained the perfection of life. And so all this is for the taking. It's here for us. And this is how great devotional service is, that it gives us access. But we also read in Nectar of Devotion that the process of devotional service, it also attracts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and devotional service is greater than Krishna because it attracts him. So how to understand this? So in Nectar of Devotion, it's called Attracting Krishna. And it says here, although Krishna is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest among all greats, still he remained with those loyal brothers, being attracted by their devotion, by their friendship, and by their love. That is the proof of how great this process of devotional service is. It can attract even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is great, but devotional service is greater than God because it attracts him. People who are not in devotional service can never understand what great value there is in rendering service to the Lord. And so we see how amazing it is that when we are accepting that our greatest wealth is devotional service, then we are accessing the relationship with Krishna this way. I'll read a few excerpts from the explanation that Prabhupada gives in Nectar of Devotion. He says, Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that devotional service attracts even Krishna. Krishna attracts everyone, but devotional service attracts Krishna. The symbol of devotional service in the highest degree is Radharani. Krishna is called Madan Mohana, which means that he is so attractive that he can defeat the attraction of thousands of cupids. But Radharani is still more attractive, for she can even attract Krishna. Therefore, devotees call her Madana Mohana Mohani, the attractor of Cupid. This is Nectar of Devotion 1. So, Prabhupada further explains to perform devotional service means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani. As we see, devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. So in other words, devotional service is not an activity of the material world. It is directly under the control of Radharani. And in Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas, the great souls, are under the protection of Daivi Prakriti, the internal energy, Radharani. So being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. And then Prabhupada further goes on, Srila Rupa Goswami further goes on to state where this is, in the 11th canto, it's shown there with the Uddhava, and then I think 7th canto, King Yudhisthira, and there's Prahlad Maharaj. So everyone's quoted in here. So this is how great the process of devotional service is. It attracts Krishna. Krishna's already great. Devotional service is greater than him. And Radharani is whom we take shelter of in the internal energy to be able to serve Krishna in this way. So I was feeling very fortunate to be able to remind myself of this and share that this morning. So the greatness of, so the true wealth of the devotee is not the gold, is not prestige, like some of the Shikshastakam verses were instructing us on what then to go after. So then, as we had, in the course of devotional life, then pursue this, we see how we can start to experience in the unfoldment of our own identity, our own purpose, and we are able to then deepen and extend our devotional service, not just for our own interest. It starts off as the ultimate self-interest, but then it expands out to everyone's well-being and everyone's care. And in that way, then this, the whole mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is propagated on that premise. And so I thought another theme that we could pick up from here, one was, Prabhupada is expressing the devotee is never allured by such dazzling gold, but their greatest wealth is devotional service. Since in the last few classes we were talking about, how do we understand these chapters? I mean, these verses sometimes, because there's so much going on. And I found this really nice article by Vishaka Devi called Naive Literalism. And she gives some nice context. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read it, unless there are any other comments in the meantime before we read that. Any other thoughts or reflections at this point?
What was the title of that article once again?
Naive Literalism. Literalism.
Okay, thank you.
Post a link. Yeah. So let's see what she says. She says, in each of its 12 cantos, Srimad Bhagavatam, the flawless ripened fruit of all Vedic scriptures, tells of miracles and mysticism, of the esoteric and extraterrestrial. We hear a cow, bull, elephant, monkey, and bird speaking deep philosophy. We learn of the four-headed creator who sits atop a lotus flower, of a magnificent aerial mansion, and of a 5-year-old who pushes down half the earth with his toe and makes demigods suffocate. We learn of people giving birth to tens of thousands of children, of people with 1,000 heads or arms, of an ocean of milk that is churned by demigods and demons using a snake for a rope. We are also given detailed information about this extraordinary universe we live in. For example, from the 5th canto, chapter 16, verses 16-17, and she quotes, on the lower slopes of Mandara mountain is a mango tree named Devachyuta. It is 1,100 yojanas high. Mangoes as big as mountain peaks and as sweet as nectar fall from the top of this tree for the enjoyment of the denizens of heaven. When all those solid fruits fall from such a height, they break, and the sweet, fragrant juice within them flows out and becomes increasingly more fragrant as it mixes with other scents. That juice cascades from the mountain in waterfalls and becomes a river called Arunoda, which flows pleasantly through the eastern side of Ilavrita. What is a pragmatic, logical, scientific mind to do with such information? Shall we see the whole body of work as mythology, or glean its essential spiritual truths and leave aside the fantastic aspects as entertainment used to convey those truths? Or shall we suspend our disbelief and accept all the texts of Bhagavatam as they are? None of these options are in the spirit of the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. That is, the spirit of unalloyed submission and devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. This spirit is not the suspension of disbelief, but the suspension of pride. For without pridelessness, the Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as the Vedas, will remain a great mystery. In other words, readers who enter the spirit of the Srimad Bhagavatam do not suspect any aspect of its message. Rather, they question their own qualification and ability to receive that message purely. That can be a controversial point, but she kind of qualifies it later on. Besides being genuinely humble, mature students of the Srimad Bhagavatam are detached from this alluring material world and know their spiritual identity, their purpose in life, and the limitations the material body and mind may impose on spirit. Rather than naive, these saints are highly evolved human beings with unrivaled critical and analytical insights. Srila Prabhupada writes, the bestial civilization of eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratifying has misled modern man into forgetting how powerful a soul he has. As we have already described, the soul is a spiritual spark many, many times more illuminating, dazzling, and powerful than the sun, moon, or electricity. Human life is spoiled when a man does not realize his identity with his soul. That's from CCRD 1522 purple. But what of the Bhagavatam's amazing descriptions and pastimes? Continuing the above purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, each and every planet has its particular atmosphere, and if one wants to travel to any particular planet within the material universe, one has to adapt his material body to the climatic condition of that planet. For instance, if one wants to go from India to Europe, where the climatic condition is different, one has to change his dress accordingly. Similarly, a complete change of body is necessary if one wants to go to the transcendental planets of Vaikuntha. However, if one wants to go to the higher material planets, he can keep his fine address of mind, intelligence, and ego, but has to leave his gross dress, body made of earth, water, fire, etc. Devoted readers of the Srimad Bhagavatam are not literalists in the sense that they expect to taste the mango juice waters of the Arunoda River, at least not in their present state. They take it that this place exists as it is described, but it is on a platform that they cannot directly experience. The text is explicit, not figurative, but it describes a dimension unknown to us. What we can presently perceive is limited by the nature of our body. Since our body is made of gross material elements, we directly perceive only gross material sense objects. However, in other parts of the material creation, only subtle energies, which are imperceptible to us, exist. On that plane, one could uproot trees and use them to bridge a river, or one could leap across an ocean just for fun. If we allow it, Srimad Bhagavatam will transport us beyond the limits of the tiny part of the creation we inhabit. It will revive our sense of wonder, of mystery, and of discovery because the Supreme Person revealed in its text is a sportive, imaginative youth who can pulverize preconceptions. Krishna is a Dokshaja, beyond the measurement of our senses. He is Atarka, beyond the reach of logic and argument. He is Avan Manasa Gochara, beyond the range of the mundane mind, words, and imagination. He is Achintya, beyond our estimation. In a word, he is inconceivable. And he's inconceivably attractive and funny and adventurous. He says, Vyavasayosmi, I am adventure, in 1036 of Bhagavad Gita. He can do anything, and what he does is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, Lord Krishna, who is Vishnu himself, picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand and held it aloft just as easily as a child holds up a mushroom. Krishna's miracles are all around us, from the precise workings of living cells to the movements of the galaxies. But because in this dark age of quarrel and hypocrisy, our strength, duration of life, memory, intelligence, and imagination are as depleted as the earth we inhabit and the food that it produces, we view the descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam as mythology, and those who are devoted to and enlivened by them as naive literalists. As a result, this unparalleled scripture remains inaccessible. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It is most dear to the Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. This Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the processes of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. That's from Bhagavatam 12, 13, 18. So I thought I'll just share that, her kind of take on how to understand, since she actually quoted some of the descriptions of Mandara Mountain and the rivers and Ilavrita. and be able to try to understand that how wonderful the soul is and how great and um, like magnanimous and magnificent, but because of this conditional state, we're not able to access and understand all of this. At the same time, we're not blindly accepting, but we're very critical and analytical, and we start to qualify ourselves to hear and take in our hearts what we can digest and process, and understand that the rest of it exists beyond a dimension that we are not able to perceive. So those are some of the thoughts and themes I had for this morning. But the greatest wealth is devotional service, and these are some of the, and there are different frameworks we can tap into to understand descriptions such as these in chapter 16. And yeah, the devotees just always wanting to be at the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, and is never ever allured by gold or by prestige or by beautiful people. Thank you, devotees. Opening up for reflections, thoughts, questions. Can't read the translation again, but it's been repeated so many times. Any thoughts? Yes, a lot to think about.
You have given us a lot to think about. You cover a lot of territory. And I can see you put a lot of effort into preparation, which I appreciate a lot. It makes for a very nice class, interesting, engaging, and authoritative. Where was Vishaka's article? Where
Where
can
did I
that?
find that? Let me quickly check. I just copied it and pasted it into my notes. I can send you a link. How did I find her article? I don't know if it might have just been on Dandavats or something like that. Naive literalism. Yeah, I can send you the link, Prabhu. I can just post it in the chat.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've
Anything
gotten
else on this?
lots of links from you, which I appreciate. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments or questions that come immediately to mind. Um, so I'm just gonna fade away. Hare Krishna, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you for you too. We'll see you later. Other thoughts, anyone else on this?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. And yeah, your discussion, especially about how devotional service is greater than Krishna because it attracts Krishna, made me think about Yashoda finding Krishna by her parental, maternal love, pure love. And you were contrasting that, I don't know, directly or indirectly, about with later you mentioned about how the greatness of the soul and the importance of remembering who we are, and how that devotional service process awakens that uh, as we try to transform our conditional state into our pure state.
Mm.
And I was realizing that how important patience is in the process. Patience with ourselves, patience with the process, patience with Krishna, patience with others, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. So yeah, thank you for the class, and the quotes from Vishaka were just so beautiful.
Mm.
The way she described the Srimad Bhagavatam is just very beautiful. So thank you for sharing.
Hey, thank you, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu. Thank you for sharing in your reflections. Yeah, so true. Patience. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
See the chat.
See the chat. Chat. Okay, thank you. So, Naliat, yep. Thank you for that link. I think we both ended up posting the link. Thank you. Did I miss anything else in the chat? Nope. Thank you, devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam, Ki Jai, all glories to the assembled devotees. And those of you in and around Gita Nagari, we'll see you at 1 p.m. at Yashoda Mais. Hare Krishna, have a lovely day, holidays, and however you're observing today. So, yep, see everyone later. Hare Krishna.